Nobody is thinking for themselves anymore, is what everybody says, but according to data, this statement is false. Because people are thinking independently, no one is forcing you to do this or say that. But a better question to ask is, why do you somehow agree with every video on your For You page? And it's not because your algorithm knows you so well, because if your opinion was wrong, would you even know? We live in a society where everyone is trying to sell you something. A product, a narrative, an identity, hope, anything. But it's manufactured for the producer's gain. We see ads invade our social media feed, telling us what to buy and where to go. But there's a bigger threat, and it's not an attack on our wallets. Rather, the attack on the ability to create and stand by our own original thoughts.
Crikey! Think back when you were in school and the teacher goes around to ask the class a question. He asks the class, what is 14 minus 7? He calls on the first student and they say 6, and the next student also says 6. As the teacher gets closer to you, all of a sudden you say 6 when you know it's actually 7. The Ash conformity experiment proves this and shows us that humans like to conform even when they know we're incorrect. Our peers can influence what we think, and the fear of being ostracized can outweigh our need of being authentic to ourselves. This conformity allows space for groupthink. Within the classroom, especially for group projects, it's easy to not go against the grain. It appeases the group, and we feel a sense of belonging when we agree on the same things. Instead of being the one person challenging the group and facing the repercussion of being annoying, we comply. But in a larger scale, groupthink and conforming to what everyone else is saying can be a lot more harmful. When we're on the internet, we have anonymity. We're able to say whatever we think without repercussions. So when we open a comment section and we see an outpour of negative comments towards an individual, it creates a certain environment and in-group, one could say. And if you don't identify with the in-group, it's you against them. Oftentimes, I believe people don't really dislike the person or fully agree with negativity that they're spreading. A lot of the times, they've done the same things they condemn their targets of or envy them. Negativity spreads faster because you're evoking stronger emotion like fear, anger, shame, insecurity, validation, things of that nature. To some, gossip is addicting because spreading hate catches our attention. Why form your own thoughts when you can feed into the enticing rumors? Why empathize when we can catastrophize? Why understand a different perspective when we can shame? These negative emotions make you feel something, and to understand where they're coming from isn't as exciting. In the age of social media and the ability to have it as an occupation, the boss of these digital creators are the viewers because their power lies in their clicks and pockets. With the exception of audiences responding to hate speech or abuse when creators make small mistakes or simply live life differently than how the viewers want them to, toxic followers with a negative consensus on how they feel about the creator seek asylum in their misery because it's a distraction from the misery that is their lives. Truly happy people wouldn't seek comfort in those places. So using excuses like we pay your bills, we made you famous, you don't care about your fans since you don't do XYZ is coming from a place of entitlement and unearned moral superiority. Because the unhappy people that contribute to the hate likely lack control in their own lives, and maybe, just maybe, verbal harassing random people may give them some false sense of authority. From fashion to fishing, trends are an essential part of social media because it tells us what's in and what's out. Trends have always been a thing. We've seen how clothing differs by each decade and how hairstyles go in and out of style. But the frequency in which we determine trends to still be cool or not is rapidly changing. As our content gets shorter and our attention spans decrease, our ability to stick with certain trends are declining at such a fast rate. With the abundance and access to clothing, thanks to fast fashion, consumers often jump from one thing to another. And with influencers making social media their career, they're incentivized to push different products. And why wouldn't everyone want to buy from their favorite influencer? Sure, they may have had work done multiple times or have spent their lives in competitive sports, but this new product that just came is their holy grail to getting bigger biceps or growing their glutes, and you buy it just because they said to. We see fangirls clawing to get to Harry Styles' sweat rag to sell online, or fanboys mauling people to get Jalen Hurts' mouth guard to sell online. Now with social media, there is an abundance of new faces and new fixations. where people develop these parasocial bonds because we're able to see more into the lives of celebrities without going through management, lawyers, or even security. And I've noticed a cyclical pattern of fixation and virality over a very short period of time where everyone loves them, but the quicker the rise, the harder they fall. And then it's on to the next fixation. When you look at TikTok's algorithm, specifically the videos you like, the things you save, the accounts you view, the time spent on a certain topic, it all factors into their algorithm that wants you to stay. Sure, this algorithm can help you find those pair of shoes you've wanted or something similar to it, but the main issue is this leads to your algorithm lacking diversification. TikTok likely won't be everyone's primary source of news, but what I do believe when it comes to the abundance of people on social media talking about their thoughts and different point of views, only seeing the same content of regurgitated think pieces said in different ways isn't beneficial to the expansion of your mind. If you are fed the same rhetoric, of course, you're going to believe that you're right. If you spent the majority of your life in the same town, working with the same people, going to the same church, and doing the same things, of course, you're not going to understand when somebody thinks a different way than you because you're not exposed to that person's sense of normalcy. Oftentimes, we can forget that multiple things can be true at once. It's not an either or situation. How will you ever be able to question your beliefs if you don't get a new perspective? Granted, everyone may have their line and non negotiables, but no one is forcing you to agree and adopt a new lifestyle. As variables change and you receive more data, understand why people had to do what they did, you see that the only way to question your normal is to introduce a new normal, and that begins with a discussion. Standing alone can be scary. Not everybody has built up such a strong sense of self in order to stand by the things that they say. But I've noticed that due to the nature of social media, where people can say the most horrid things online and face no repercussions for it, we can often have the thought that everyone is out to get us. But I've noticed that due to the nature of social media, where people can say the most horrid things online and face no repercussions for it, we can often have the thought that everyone is out to get us. Spaces that were once a forum-like environment to gain a new perspective have become a hostile environment to indoctrinate and prove to others why their way is the only way. We can also see this shift in American politics, where Republican and Democratic leaders were once able to disagree, yet still uphold a level of respect and decorum now if members disagree with you. It's an immediate invitation to attack their identity. Rather than conversing to learn, it's a them versus us way of thinking. And it's one thing for two people in your life to tell you they disagree with what you said, but when it becomes 2000, it discourages a lot of people from saying things that go against what the masses think, even if it's a completely new idea. It can be a scary thought that we may offend someone, maybe we didn't do enough research, or that our ideas are stupid, but the fear of standing alone is the price of transformation and innovation. But become the change you want to see. The next time you're having a conversation, notice whether you're just waiting your turn to speak and keep redirecting the conversation back to you, or if you're talking with the intention of contributing to the dialogue in a meaningful way. Society has made us feel like disagreement is a personal attack. But when you have people in your life that are willing to tell you when you're wrong and challenge your understanding in a constructive manner, keep them around. Instead of viewing it as an attack, view it as them helping you to flushing out and specify the root of the message. Be okay with the fact that not everyone has to agree with you, but that doesn't deny them respect. Be quick to learn something from everyone, but slow to implement advice from just anyone. Oftentimes, the more access to information we gain, the less we deem additional work is necessary. Stairs require more effort, but keeps us lean and agile. Escalators do the work for us, so there really is no need to walk if it's going to take me there. But escalators malfunction, the power could go out, clothing can get caught in it, and God forbid you fall backwards into their metal grates. But we just assume that it should be working properly majority of the time. Gen Z grew up with teachers in the classroom ideally pushing them to do the research, fact check, and always question things on the internet. But things have drastically changed to benefit convenience. The use of AI, especially within schools, could be extremely beneficial to the learning and expansion of our education. As society, we are quick to believe everything without further investigation of verifying creditable sources or if the image or video was doctored. For everyday tasks, we ask artificial intelligence questions that we could have easily answered on our own. But when does convenience become reliance? At what point do we question the information presented to us? Generative AI was designed to predict patterns and analyze vast amounts of data, but who is checking the data? As one of the highest revenue generating consulting firms globally in over 150 countries, for the fiscal year of 2025, Deloitte had generated $70.5 billion in global revenue. Even this powerhouse became too reliant on technology. In 2025, Deloitte agreed to a partial refund for a $294,000 report to the Australian Department of Employment and Workplace Relations. Deloitte's report audited welfare compliance systems but used AI-generated hallucinations, which is false information presented as factual. It included fake academic references and a fictitious quote from a federal court judge. Additionally, Deloitte was caught using AI-generated fake citations in a $1 million report for a Canadian provincial government, which referenced fabricated academic papers. It's funny how, as kids, we watched movies like Wall-E, where it was easy to write off those concepts as being out of range. But how often do you utilize artificial intelligence as supplemental rather than the foundation of your thoughts? How often do you take the stairs? To think for yourself requires humility over pride. When the repercussion of being wrong is potentially doxing, being plastered across social media, not uphold the facade of being perfect, and social exiled, it's very understandable why no one wants to mess up. It's a slippery slope to tie your value to your successes, because when you inevitably face adversity and failure, what does that say about you? Oftentimes we get so attached to our ideas and ways of thinking, when challenged by others, it seems like a personal attack. You stand by the fact all women are evil until it's your mom. You exclaim, leave people at the first red flag until it's you in a relationship and you don't want to abandon your partner that's trying. You preach, working hard means success and recognition. But our nation was built upon the intense labor and oppression of people we don't know the names of. To seek truth and knowledge means the things you believe may not be all-encompassing. Just because at one point in time something was true does not mean it holds truth now. In pursuit of knowledge, you need to acknowledge that things are ever-changing, and that is how it should be. You will never stop learning. Today, people seek the fish rather than the ability to learn how to fish. The instant gratification and path of least resistance. And oftentimes the loudest people are saying things even though they don't even believe them because it's the easiest route. Strong opinions can often mask insecurities. Do you actually feel this way, or are you trying to prove it to me? I don't need to prove to anyone my hair is black because you can see it is black. So when people insist, especially unprompted, that they're unbothered, they're successful, they're superior, wouldn't it be as clear as day? Conforming doesn't require courage. Being authentic does. Ask yourself this question, especially for people who enjoy talking a lot and conversing with others. When you bring up certain topics, are you trying to prove something by saying these things, or is it coming from the heart? Pay attention to what you say. Ever notice that certain jokes your friends say to you, you don't find funny? Some write it off as it just being a stupid joke, but pay attention to the things that offend you. By monitoring our environment and seeing the type of person we become. In it, we can learn more about ourselves and what we value. When people challenge your opinion, do you get angry, easily comply, or even look for new friends? To never be wrong can say a lot about your circle or your ability to have your beliefs challenged. To live in a world where you can't accept being challenged intellectually is a dull life. Allow yourself to gain new perspective. Allow yourself to stand alone and allow yourself to stand for something. Stay tuned for next week on National Geographic, Sid. Keep it here and keep it simple, Sid.